Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be going over React Lifecycle Hooks. All right, what are these? And we're going to completely demystify them. But before I begin, please subscribe to this channel and please like and comment to this video. All right, I want to be able to help you with whatever you need. Okay, let's begin. All right, so let's just get some background. So basically, if you remember in the previous video, where I just give a basic overview of React, I mentioned that there was an extends keyword when we were looking at actual React code. And that's there deliberately because the components extend the React class. And I really want to highlight this because when you extend the parent class, what happens is that the parent class has several methods, right? And the children give definition to those methods. So it's like a template, and the children will actually specify the specification of that method. So let me give an example. For instance, you can have a university parent class, right? And it'll have, fields like name, year founded, faculty, these kind of things. But by itself, it doesn't really mean anything. A university, okay, it has a couple of fields and methods. So what happens is that a specific university will extend it. So like we'll say UC Santa Cruz extends university, and then it'll actually give definition to those fields and methods, right? It's like year founded, whatever, right? Faculty, this, and it's actually gonna give the definition of the parent class. So same thing here is that the React class is just like a parent class, okay? And everything else is just children, are just children. And some of the methods you have to implement because they're just important for, the framework to work. And others are recommended. You don't have to implement them, but if you do, it's definitely better. Okay, and the formal name that we call these methods are just called lifecycle hooks. Okay, so some of the lifecycle hooks, we're going to go over some of them. You have to implement, and some of them you don't have to implement. And the lifecycle hooks are just methods in the parent class. So those are the two key points I want you to remember, okay? Now, when you're developing any component, there can be two kinds of components, right? There can be a stateful component or a non-stateful component. So a stateful component is a component that's based off the state, right? So this is the example. These are the examples that I've been showing. So if it's a stateful component, you need to brainstorm, okay, what variables am I going to keep track of in the state, and brainstorm the hooks that you're going to have to implement. And the must-have hooks that you have to implement are the constructor and render, okay? So yeah, basically we've already went over some of the hooks already. So the constructor is one that's mandatory, and the render is the other mandatory. Now you may have a non-stateful component. This may just be a component that just renders items on the screen. And for that, all you need is a render, okay? Because the render method actually tells how to show items on the screen, okay? So now let's go to the next slide. So let's go over some main APIs that you have to know. The main thing you have to know is the SetState. And the SetState allows you to change state values. And whenever you set the state, it actually causes a re-render, right? So whenever you set state, the immediate thing right after is a re-render, right? The render method will run again. So because of that, it can actually be inside render, because if you have a render and the this.setState right after it, then it's just going to be infinite loop, because the setState will tell the render to run again, the render method will run again, the setState will tell the render method to run again, and it's just going to be infinite loop, and you're actually going to get a warning if you do this in React, okay? Now let's go over the lifecycle hooks. So there's three that are important: the constructor, the render, and component did mount. There are others too, like get derived state from props, should component update, component did update, right? But we're not gonna go over these because I kind of see these as like, you're kind of new to React. So if I have like a React intermediate course, we'll definitely go over these lifecycle hooks, but this is just foundations. So we're just going to go over these three for now. Okay. All right. So the constructor, you can think of the constructor as the instantiation, right? This is the first thing that gets run. And it's very important that you have the super props line because that invokes the superclass. Okay. And when you build the constructor, it's important that you initialize state variables and brainstorm them. So if I'm building a traffic light component, I want to keep track of the light color, right? If I have items in a list, then I want to initialize that array. If I have values entered in a form, I need to, give the names of what those variables will be, and then change them as the user types in the form. Okay, so yeah, these are the kind of things you have to do in the constructor. It's just like instantiation, super, and initialize your state variables. Awesome. All right, now we have the render method. So this just lays out the JSX. It is required. You do need this in both the stateful and non-stateful components. And all it is, the JSX is just a combination of HTML and JavaScript. So it supports conditionals or ternary expressions, and it can return JSX only if a condition is true. So like it'll be able to, you can easily do the conditional expressions and stuff like that with the JSX. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about component did mount. I'm probably going to use this method more in the intermediate series. The component did mount is a method that runs as the component mounts. So as the data is loaded into state, that's the way you want to think about this. And it's optional, right? You don't need to have this if you don't want to. So an example of this is if you're pulling data from an API, let's say, from Google Maps, you're pulling the coffee shops in your local neighborhood, or, you're seeing the recent transactions that have happened, right? These kind of things. You pull that data in the component did mount, and then you get it, and then you can set the state once you're done. All right. And yeah, that's basically it for this lecture. So yeah, I really want you to understand these, because before we start coding, it's very important that you understand these fundamentals. All right. So thank you. All right. I'll see you in the next video. Okay. Bye.